We start with a Shanti mantra. As you all know, the Bhagavatam is one of the Puranas. It's called Bhagavata Puranam. For short, it is Bhagavatam. From the Bhagavata Puranam, I use Shanti mantra today, and this is on page 94 of this book, the Universal Prayers. And the English translation is on page 95, the top of page 94. Om Swastyastu Vishwasya Khalah Prasidatam Dhyayantu Bhutani Shivam Mito Dhiya Manascha Bhadram Bhajata Dadhokshaja Aveshyatam no Maritapyahaituki Aveshyatam no Matirapyahaituki Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is auspicious, and may our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Om, peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, and may there be peace everywhere in nature. So let us begin, continue our study of the third chapter. Last time we were studying verse number 38 in chapter 3, where Bhagavan Sri Krishna said that the layer of ignorance covers the knowledge inherent in us. As Swamiji said, all knowledge is already within man, within us. Education means the discovering of that, manifestation of that knowledge already in man. That is education. So knowledge is within us. Sachidananda is within us, our true nature. But that is masked by this layer of kama, krodha and all other defects, blemishes of the mind. So all spiritual practices are necessary only to remove the ignorance, not to gain knowledge. Knowledge is there. If knowledge is something that is not there now, and if it is something that has to be acquired by effort, then it won't be permanent, it will be limited. Because all effort is limited in duration and intensity, magnitude. No matter how hard we work, there is a finite limit to the amount of effort we can put in. So anything that is acquired by effort is necessarily limited. This is the nature of all worldly happiness. Some time ago we were discussing the nature of true happiness. All worldly happiness that comes from outside objects comes as a result of effort. We have to work hard to earn money, to purchase things, and to create other facilities for enjoyment. Hard work is required. And that is why the happiness gained by such effort is also limited. After some time it goes away. Āvṛtaṃ kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaha. Chapter 5, verse 22. That 522 keeps coming back again and again. It's very important verse. All worldly happiness, that means in other words, everything that can be obtained by effort is limited in time. Adi antavanta. Adi means beginning, anta means end. It has a beginning and an end. Therefore, a wise person does not take delight in such temporary happiness. Nateshu ramate buddha. In the same way, if knowledge were not inherently present within us, and if it is something that is to be acquired by effort, then it would not be everlasting, it would not be permanent, it would be finite in magnitude also. But knowledge is inherent in us, that's our true nature. Ananda, Satchidananda, Chit means consciousness is our true nature. It is there, but it is covered by a layer of ignorance. What is the layer of ignorance? Kama, Krodha, that he has been talking about in the previous several verses. In verse number 36, Arjuna asked the question, why people commit sinful deeds? In answer to that question, Sri Krishna said in verse 37, there is only one reason why people commit all kinds of mistakes, big and small. It's called Kama, Krodha. Is one, appearing as two. Kama esha, Krodha esha. Born of Rajoguna, Rajas. Rajoguna sabadbhavaha. So that Kama, Krodha is what covers the knowledge inherent in us. Knowledge of the self. We are that self. We don't have to know that we are the self. We are that one. But that awareness is masked by Kama, Krodha and other impurities of the mind. All spiritual practices are necessary only to remove the impurities, not to gain knowledge. So that is what we studied in verse number 38. Now we do verse number 39 today. Same topic. 39. āvṛtaṃ jñānametena jñānino nityavairiṇā kāmarūpeṇa kaunteya duṣpūreṇānalena ca. 39. āvṛtaṃ jñānametena jñānino nityavairiṇā kāmarūpeṇa kaunteya duṣpūreṇānalena ca. Translation. O Arjuna, knowledge is obscured by this persistent enemy of the knower, that is, by craving, as by an insatiable fire. Etena nityavairiṇā jñāninaha jñānam āvṛtaṃ. If you rearrange the words in the first line, etena, by this, nityavairiṇā, eternal foe, is always going to be there. Nityavairiṇā jñāninaha jñānam, the knowledge of the seeker, āvṛtaṃ, is covered by the layer of Kama, Krodha and other related blemishes. Kāmarūpeṇa, it is of the nature of desire. O kaunteya, duṣpūreṇānalena ca. It is like a fire which is difficult to put off. Anala means fire, duṣpūra means difficult to quench. Huge fire of Kama, Krodha. When the onslaught of the wave of Kama, Krodha comes, we lose all knowledge, all thinking power, all sense of propriety, and we become really like mad people. People commit all kinds of things when they are overpowered by this wave of huge waves of Kama and Krodha. So many instances we are aware of, even in the present time and in earlier times also, where great personalities have fallen under the influence of Kama and Krodha. What to speak of ordinary human beings? Even Indra himself and great sages like Vishwamitra and others, they also fell. They were deluded by this force of kama and krodha. That is the covering power, āvṛtaṃ shakti of kama and krodha. Where does this kama krodha reside in the human personality? Where is the locus of kama and krodha? That is answered in verse number 40. Indriyāni mano buddhi asyādhiṣṭhānamuchyate etairvimohayatyesha jñānamāvṛtya dehinam. Indriyāni mano buddhi asyādhiṣṭhānamuchyate etairvimohayatyesha jñānamāvṛtya dehinam. Dehinam jnanam avritya yesha vimohayati. Let's read the translation. The abode or residence of kama, krodha, desire and anger is said to be the senses, sense organs, 5 sense organs of perception, the mind and the intellect, buddhi. These 3 are the locations where kama, krodha reside, principally in the mind. By means of these, he means kama, obscures, kama means desire. Desire obscures knowledge and dilutes the embodied man. Dehi means we're all dehis. We are the awareness, Atman, associated with a particular body. That is Dehi, the indwelling spirit, the Jivatman. We are all deluded by the impurities of the mind, such as kama, krodha, lust, anger, greed, jealousy, pride, fear, etc. Where do they reside in our personality? In 3 places. In the intellect, buddhi, in the mind, manaha, and in the sense organs, indriyani. Indriyani, manaha, buddhihi. These 3 things, asya adhisthānam uchyate. Adhisthāna means residence, where kama resides, and desire, anger, they reside. Asya means kamasya. Etaihi vimohayati esha. By these, that is the mind, buddhi and sense organs, esha jñānamāvṛtya dehinam vimohayati. Residing in these places, anger, lust and anger and greed, etc., they delude the individual being. You are deluded by the power of anger, lust, anger and greed. So many kinds of desire, but all desire is only one desire. Desire for fulfillment of something, feeling of emptiness. We talked about the desire in at great length in 2nd chapter when we were discussing verses 60 to 63. Jagato vishayan pumsaha. Where desire comes, the root cause of desire is ignorance. That was described in the verse 38-39. Ignorance is the covering of knowledge which is inherent in us. Ignorance is caused by kama and krodha, lust and anger. So when we are ignorance of what? Ignorance of our true divine nature. We are, by essentially, we are divine. Each soul is potentially divine, Swamiji said. That is what Bhagavad Gita says in many places. In Gita, we hear Sri Krishna is saying in many places. For example, 15:15, easy to remember, chapter 15, verse 15. There Sri Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishto mattasmriti jñānamapohanam cha sarvasya hridi aham sannivishtaha. If you rearrange the word, it's easy to understand. Sarvasya hridi, in the hearts of everybody, aham sannivishtaha, I am resident. God is present in all of us without any exception. Even in the most wicked person, God is present. But that wicked person is not aware of God's presence. The presence of God is completely covered by very thick layer of ignorance, of desire, anger, jealousy, etc. in the case of a wicked person. In the case of ordinary people, there is some awareness, but it is still covered by ignorance. In the case of jñānis, wise people, the ignorance is completely gone, almost completely gone. They are always aware of their divine nature. They don't do anything wrong. They are not under the sway of kama and krodha. They are not under the influence of lust and anger and greed, etc. Those are few in number. Majority of people, to have some feeling that our true nature is not what we think we are. We are something divine. We reading scriptures and listening to the words of teachers. And we have some inkling, but it is not very clear. Most of the time our mind is covered by anger and other impurities. So what is to be done? If this layer of ignorance is covering our true nature, which is divine, now what is to be done? How to remove it? We don't want to be always under this way of ignorance. We want to be enlightened. There's always this inherent desire in us to regain our true nature. We want to become enlightened. That's why we are doing all these things. How to become enlightened? Enlightened means we are in the darkness of ignorance now. From this darkness of ignorance, we have to move to the light of knowledge, self-knowledge. Not ordinary worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge is essential, but it is not complete. It does not give us self-knowledge. We have to gain self-knowledge. Two kinds of knowledge we have seen earlier. Paravidya, aparavidya. Aparavidya means knowledge of the world. All the subjects we study in academia, beginning from kindergarten, primary school, all the way until all universities, postgraduate studies, they all come under the umbrella of aparavidya, worldly knowledge, knowledge of the world. If you take any subject, science, astrology, astronomy, this knowledge of the celestial objects, zoology, knowledge of animals, botany, knowledge of plants, chemistry, knowledge of elements and substances, like this one, sociology, archaeology, psychology, they are all knowledge of something, outside objects, but not knowledge of self. That is one kind of vidya, aparavidya, knowledge of the world. As opposed to that, knowledge of self is our knowledge of our true nature. Who am I? I am not the body, the mind and sense organs. I am that Atman, I am the divine self. Infinite, eternal, Ananda, bliss is mine. I am that. That knowledge is not covered in all the universities and schools and colleges. That we have to study in Vedanta. Vedanta says you are that. Tattvamasi, you are that. You are not the body, mind, sense organs, etc. You are that divine self. You are one with the divine. That knowledge is to be gained. So that is the solution. To gain that knowledge, what is to be done? The first step, what is to be done to gain self-knowledge is to control the sense organs, to control the tendency of the sense organs to enjoy worldly objects. All the sense organs are hankering for sense pleasure. Eye wants to see something pleasant, nice. Ear wants to hear something pleasant. And skin wants to touch something pleasant, nice and warm and smooth and comforting, like this one. And tongue wants to taste something, nose wants to smell something, fragrance, etc. The sense organs are always hankering to gain contact with sense objects, thinking that will bring happiness. In the 14th verse of the 2nd chapter, we studied what is happiness, worldly happiness. Matras, verse number 14, chapter 2. Matras parshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama pagino nityavairiṇā stitikshasva bharata. Matra sparsha. Matra means 5 sense organs of perception. Jnānindriyas. Sparsha means contact with sense objects. If there is a sense object and with my sense organ if I contact it, that contact is construed as Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkha. Cold and heat and pain and pleasure. That's the mind. Mind construes. Today the same one sense organ is there and I hold it, I feel very happy because it is a hot cup of something, tea or hot water or something, and it is cold outside, so this brings comfort, contact with a warm object on a cold day. Now comes summer. It's so hot outside, 100 degrees outside, and if you give a cup of very hot water, we don't feel like touching it. We like touching cold water where some ice has been put. So what gave pleasure at one time, contact of same sense organ, same sense object, what gave pleasure at one time is unpleasant at another time. So there is nothing fixed about it. The mind thinks this is pleasant, unpleasant. That is the nature of worldly happiness. And that is not true happiness. True happiness comes from the self within, Atmananda, self, joy of the self, the joy of the illumined. We studied that one before. So, how to get that joy of the illumined, illumination, joy of illumination, knowledge of the self. First step is self-control, controlling the sense organs and the mind. Very first step. That is explained in verse number 41. Control of sense organs. Sense organs have a tendency to go on contact with sense objects, thinking that will bring happiness. It brings very temporary happiness and it's not true happiness, combined with a lot of problems, and will go away after some time. And after some time, sense organs will lose ability to enjoy the sense objects even if the objects are there. With old age, what happens? You cannot taste food, you cannot hear sound, music, you cannot hear the lisp, sweet words of the grandchild because hearing is impaired. You cannot see pleasant form because eyesight is very poor. And you cannot eat good food because of health problems. So all sense objects are there, but sense objects lose their ability to enjoy. So that is not true happiness. That is very temporary. True happiness comes from the self within. But the sense organs are an obstruction. They want to go and have contact with sense objects to gain pleasure. So first step to be done in spiritual practice is control of sense organs. That is explained in verse number 41. Let us do verse number 41. Tasmat tamindriyāṇyādau niyamya bharatarṣabha papmanam prajahihyenam jñānaviඥānanaśanam. Tasmat tvamindriyāṇyādau niyamya bharatarṣabha papmanam prajahihyenam jñānaviඥānanaśanam. Therefore, O mighty Prince Arjuna, first controlling the senses, give this up. Give up this wicked craving that destroys knowledge and realization. Craving. Mind always craves for sense pleasures. Sense organs always crave for sense pleasures. That craving has to be controlled. First step in spiritual life. No matter what yoga we practice, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, or whatever, control of sense organs, control of the mind is the first step. That is explained here. Therefore, tasmat tvam means you, addressing Arjuna, addressing all of us. Whatever teaching Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Gita is meant for all of us. Arjuna happens to be the medium, recipient from Krishna, and through Arjuna, Krishna's teachings comes to all of us for all time to come. Teachings in the Bhagavad Gita are of eternal value and eternal universal validity. They are good in all countries and they are good for all time to come. There is no expiration date for self-knowledge. Date of expiry used before, there is no such date for self-knowledge. Is of eternal validity, of universal relevance. That is what knowledge of self is. Sri Krishna is giving us that knowledge. Tasma, therefore, tvam āvṛtaṃ means in the beginning. First step in spiritual life. Āvṛtaṃ indriyāni niyamya. Indriyāni means all the five sense organs. Niyamya, controlling them. Enam papmanam prajahi. Prajahi means kill, conquer. This sinful craving, papmanam, this craving for sense pleasures. Enam. What is the kind of nature of this kama krodha? Jñānametena. Jñānametena. It destroys knowledge and realization. Jnana means knowledge, vijnana means realization. Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel explains the difference between jnana and vijnana. Jnana means knowledge that milk gives good health. If you drink milk every day and it gives us good health, that is knowledge. Vijnana means drinking the milk and getting health benefit, actual experience. Here in the commentary, Shankaracharya defines jnana and vijnana in this way. Jnanam shastratah ācāryatascha ātmadīnam avabodhaha. Knowledge of the self, ātmadīnam avabodhaha. Knowledge of the self obtained from Shastra and Acharya. Shastra means scriptures, Vedanta scriptures. Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita. Acharyatascha, from the teachers. The two sources of knowledge, self-knowledge. What are they? First is the scriptures. Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, main two scriptures, and other scriptures. Main sources of Vedanta knowledge are Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. And Brahma Sutra is a Nyaya Prasthana, that is the logical establishment of the truth of the Upanishads and the refutation of the all opposing views. That we are not that much interested in studying Brahma Sutras now. First we understand Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita first. So that knowledge of the self contained in the scriptures, Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. And Vijnana means experience. Vijnanam visheshatah tadartha anubhavaha. Anubhava means experience of that knowledge that I am the true self. Both of these will be destroyed, jnana vijnana nashanam, if you don't control sense organs. If you don't conquer the unreasonable adharmic desires, kama. So therefore, control of sense organs is the very first step in spiritual life. This we studied in the second chapter when we were discussing the qualities of a sage of steady wisdom. That is, when we were studying verse number 55 to 72, Sita Prajna Lakshana. Sita Prajna means a sage of steady wisdom. whose wisdom is unwaveringly established in the self, not in the world. When you're studying that one, there were two verses which I recall, which are relevant in this context. Verse number 58 in second chapter, 55 to 72, end of chapter, contain the description of the sage of steady wisdom. In that verse number 58 refers to this control of sense organs. There, with the help of an example, how a kurma, tortoise, withdraws its senses when it senses danger. In the same way, a seeker of self-knowledge must withdraw his sense organs from sense objects. Otherwise, we are giving opportunity for kama to play its havoc, kama and krodha. So, verse number 58 in second chapter, which we studied some time ago, is worthwhile remembering it. Old verses we have to remember periodically, we have to review periodically. There Sri Krishna says, 258, Yada sammarate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Indriyarthebhyah, from sense objects, indriyani, sense organs have to be withdrawn. Again, another verse, number 61 in the second chapter. There Sri Krishna more clearly explains the importance of controlling sense organs and their tendency to go out and seek sense objects in the hope of gaining pleasure. Then he says, 261, Tani sarvani sangyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Tani means all the sense organs, 5 sense organs of perception. Sarvani, all those 5 sense organs of perception, samyamya, controlling them. Yukta asita matparaha, a yogi must stay with established in the self. Matpara means God, in God or in the self. Not established in the knowledge of the world, not thinking about what's happening in the world, what can bring me happiness, whom I like, whom I don't like, what food. No, not that one. Established in God consciousness, always thinking about God. Vashe yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. As such a person whose sense organs are under control, he is a sita prajna. He is a person of steady wisdom. So, controlling of sense organs is a very important first step in spiritual life. So, that is verse number 41. Now, we are approaching the end of the third chapter. I think we can finish third chapter today. Verse number 42 is a very important verse. Make a special note of this verse number 42. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhe paratastu saha. Verse number 42. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. Our whole human personality consists of 4 things. There are different ways of looking at human personality. 3 karana sharira, sukshma sharira, sthula sharira, 3 kinds of bodies, 5 layers, 5 koshas, so many different ways of analyzing the human personality. Here, another way is given. 4 major things constitute our human personality. What are they? Most outward things are sense organs, indriyani. 5 sense organs of perception and then 5 sense organs of action, motor organs. They constitute 10 sense organs. Those are the outermost parts of our personality. They are very powerful, more powerful than the other parts of the body. Indriyani. Then indriyebhyaha param manaha. Mind. Second part is the mind. Mind is more powerful. Param means prakrishtani. Parani prakrishtani. Superior, more power. Mind can control the sense organs. Sense organs are very powerful. They can drag us in several directions, good or bad directions. But more powerful, subtler and more powerful than the sense organs are the mind. Manaha, indriyani parani. Indriyas are themselves very powerful. Indriyebhyaha, more than indriyas, param manaha, mind is more powerful. Second part is the mind. Manasastha para buddhi, more powerful than the mind is the buddhi. Buddhi means intellect. Most powerful part of our personality is the mind. It is the intellect. Intellect is one that decides good and bad, right and wrong, and decides what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is pleasant, what is pleasurable, what is temporary, what is permanent. All these decisions are made in the buddhi. Nityavairiṇā buddhihi, the definition of buddhi. The buddhi is the deciding, discriminating faculty. Buddhi can discriminate between what is right, what is wrong, what is permanent, what is eternal. That ability to discriminate between right and wrong, permanent and eternal, is in the buddhi, intellect. Most powerful part of our personality is buddhi. After that comes the mind. Mind is an intermediate instrument between the buddhi and the sense organs. Mind can manipulate the sense organs, make it do. Mind can tell the eye, look at this, don't look at this. Mind can tell the hand to pick this up or not, to drop it. But the function of the mind is to control the sense organs. Buddhi is to guide the mind. Guidance comes from buddhi. Actual control comes from the manas, mind. Sense organs are the instruments. Manasastha para buddhihi, greater than mind is buddhi. But that is not all. Those are the visible, familiar parts, but there is some other most important part in the personality. What is that one? Buddhe paratastu saha, yo buddhe parasaha means he. Who means the individual self, the Atman, the divine self within us. That is the main part of our personality. That's what we truly are. The other three things, buddhi, intellect, manaha, mind, sense organs, are outer instruments. They are illumined by the presence of the self, Atman. It is just like sun illumines the whole world. The function of sun is to only provide illumination. It does not actually do anything. He stays in the sky, does not come down on the earth and do anything. It will be disastrous. He will stay there in the sky. But he provides the illumination, the power. Because of sun's power, plants grow, people live, animals live, clouds happen, rain happens, enabling plants to grow, produce food, and animals and people eat the food and they live and procreate, and just the world continues. All this happens because of the presence of the sun. But he himself does not do anything. He stays in the sky. His intrinsic nature is to produce heat and light. That's all which he is doing. Atman is like this. Atman is in us, within us all. The same divine self is within us all. But it does not do any action. It is nishkriya. But because of its presence, all actions happen in the body, mind, sense organs and the buddhi. So that beautiful connection of the four entities is given here. To understand verse number, let me read the translation of verse number 42. They say, they means the wise people. They say, that the senses are noble. Sense organs, 5 sense organs, they are noble. Noble means they are superior to the other parts of the body. Something like the stomach or the face, they are other parts of the body. Better than those, more powerful than those are the sense organs. They can manipulate, they can do things. Sense organs do things. Indriyani parani, they are superior. Indriyebhyaha param manaha, nobler than the senses is the mind. Nobler means prakrishtani, Sri Krishna says, Shankaracharya says. Prakrishtani means they are subtler and more powerful. The mind is subtler and more powerful than the sense organs. The mind can tell the sense organs what to do. Intellect is even nobler than the mind. Manasastha para buddhihi. The intellect is more powerful. The intellect can guide the mind and the guide can control the sense organs. Yo buddhehe paraha, one who is superior to the buddhi, saha, saha means he means his self, divine presence within us. So to understand this sloka, we have to turn to a couple of verses in the Katha Upanishad, which are very, very important verses. In all of the Upanishadic literature, these 2, 3, 4 verses in Katha Upanishad are very important. We have studied them before. Let us remind ourselves of those verses. There, in the Katha Upanishad, Yama says, Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratamevato indriyani paranya buddhim tasaratam vidhi manah pragrahamevacha atmanam ratinam vidhi buddhim shariram ratamevato. Atmanam means Atman, the self within us. He is the charioteer. Charioteer means the traveler in the chariot. What is the chariot? Shariram rathamevato. The mind is the chariot. Recently, not too long ago, I gave a Sunday talk, the chariot and the charioteer. There all this full description came. Atmanam rathanam vidhi. Self is the traveler, using the body as the vehicle. Body is the vehicle. Shariram ratamevato buddhim tasaratham vidhi. The chariot needs a charioteer, a driver. Who is that one? The buddhi. The buddhi drives the mind and the sense organ. Drives our life is driven by our buddhi. If you are a buddhiman, having very good buddhi, intellect, clean, pure intellect, our life will be smooth and conducive to spiritual progress. If our mind is, if your buddhi is, intellect is muddled, confused or tamasic, then our destination will not be the right destination. We won't reach our goal. Buddhim tasaratem vidhi manah pragrahamevacha. Mind is what? Pragraha means the rein. In Hindi they call it a lagam. Pragraha is the rein that connects the horses to the charioteer. One end of the pragraha, the rein is held in the charioteer's hand to give directions to the horses to stop or to go, to turn left or to turn right. Other end of the pragraha, rein is connected to the horse's face. So when the charioteer gives a tug in one way, the horses know to it's turn to turn right. If the charioteer gives a tug in a different way, horses know that they have to go straight or to go left. So the mind is the intermediate instrument that connects the intellect and the sense organs. The mind conveys the message of the buddhi to the horses. The horses are what? Indriyani. Indriyani are the sense organs. So this imagery given in the Kathopanishad, Indriyani hayanahu Vishayamsteshu gocharan. Haya means horses. The sense organs are the horses. The mind is the rein that connects the horses to the charioteer's hand. And the charioteer is buddhim tasaratim. Charioteer is the intellect. And the traveler is the Atman, individual self. So if the journey has to be successful and reach our destination, what is our destination of human life? Where are we supposed to go? We are short-term destination. Supposing after the class I have to go upstairs, that is a destination. Does not be a permanent destination. What is my permanent destination? Where I have to go at the end of this life? I have to go back to my own abode, which is the divine self. I have to go back to God. God is my destination. If you want to reach my destination, all these three things have to be in good condition. The mind, the buddhi, the charioteer must be an intelligent charioteer. He must know in which direction to drive the chariot. He must know he must very clearly be aware of the destination. Otherwise, we will go to wrong destination. Buddhi must be sattvic buddhi. In the Gita, later, you study three kinds of buddhi: rajasic buddhi, tamasic buddhi, sattvic buddhi. Sattvic buddhi is one which knows what is right thing to do. So buddhi has to be sattvic, main thing. If the journey has to be successful, the driver must know the destination, very clear idea of the destination. Buddhim tasaratam meddi. Manah pragramevacha. The mind conveys the intentions of the charioteer to the horses. It's the intermediate instrument that connects the charioteer to the horse's mind. The mind, in our case, connects the intellect to the sense organs. The intellect decides which is right, which is wrong, what is to do, what is not to do. Mind conveys that message of the buddhi, decision of the buddhi, intellect, to the sense organs. Tells the mind to hand to hold this one or not to hold this one, to touch this one, not to touch that one, to see that one, not to see that one. That instruction to the sense organs, individual sense organs, is given by the mind as decided by the buddhi, intellect. Intellect makes the decision. Mind conveys the decision to the sense organs, and sense organs implement the decision of the mind. So these are the four parts of our personality: sense organs, mind, intellect, and the self. Self is the main thing. That is our true nature. Self provides the illumination. By the power of the self, all the sense organs function. Because sun is there, everything happens on this earth. People live, plants live, animals live, plants produce food, and rain happens, cloud happens, and rivers flow. All these things are happening because of the sun's presence. Sun himself does not do anything. He stays in the sky, producing heat and light, which is his intrinsic nature. The nature of sun is to produce heat and light. That's all he does. But because of sun's heat and light, energy reaching the earth, all things happen on the earth. In the same way, Atman is the traveler. In this body, the self is the traveler. Destination is the ultimate reality, Jivat, Paramatman. And the chariot is the body. The mind is the controlling instrument. Buddhi, the intellect, is the deciding instrument, decides, nityāvairiṇā buddhi. And manas conveys the decision of the buddhi, intellect, to sense organs. Sense organs are the implementing instruments. They implement the decision of the buddhi as conveyed through the mind. So the four parts of our personality are described in this verse number 42. Before we leave verse number 42, let me chant it once again and read the translation. Indriyani paranyaho indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhi yo buddheh paratastu saha. They say, they means the wise people, panditaha. They say that the senses are noble, sense organs are powerful than the rest of the body. More powerful, subtler than the senses is the mind. Intellect is even nobler, more powerful and nobler than the mind. What is still nobler is the intellect, that is, than the intellect is the self. Or self, Atman, is the highest thing. Most important part of personality is the self within. Then comes the buddhi. Then comes the mind. Then comes the sense organs. In that sequence. So, the analysis of human personality in terms of these four components is an interesting analysis in this verse number 42. Similar verse comes in the Kathopanishad where 7 or 8 different things are given. A few more things are added. We will study that later. Now we go to the last verse in verse chapter number 3. What is to be done? Concluding instruction. 43. Evam buddheh param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatram mahabahu kāmarūpeṇa durasadam. Evam buddheh param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatram mahabaho kāmarūpeṇa durasadam. Here also, concluding instruction is, again coming back to our old instruction, control the sense organs. The summary of this part of this Gita is, can be stated in 3 or 4 words. Control the sense organs. That is the main thing. If you do that one, remaining steps become easy. The first step. If you don't control that one, then no matter how many scriptures we study, whatever puja or anything we do, without controlling sense organs, they will not be of much avail. So controlling sense organs, from their tendency to go out and seek out sense objects to enjoy sensory pleasures, that tendency has to be controlled. So that is explained again in the verse number 43, the last verse in the 3rd chapter. Evam buddheh param buddhva samstabhya atmanam atmana. Knowing the self as nobler than the intellect and restraining the senses through the self. Atmana atmanam samstabhya. Atmana atmanam samstabhya. This will come later in the 6th chapter also. By controlling the mind and the sense organs by the self, purified mind. Atmana means our mind, not really actually, but can be seen as having 2 parts, lower mind and higher mind. Uddharedatmana atmanam, verse number 5 in chapter 6, lift oneself by your own self. That means one part of the mind which is purified, which is pure, free from impurities, other part of the mind which is full of impurities, desire, kama, anger, etc. From that upper part of the mind, purer part of the mind, we have to lift the lower part of the mind. Mind is the instrument, mind is the object of action also. Lift oneself by one's own self. Atmana atmanam uddharet. Samstabhya, controlling the mind by the mind. Jahi shatrum mahabaho. O Arjuna, shatrum jahi, kill the enemy. Who is the enemy? Kāmarūpeṇa durasadam. That enemy which is very difficult to conquer. Durasadam, kāmarūpeṇa, of the nature of kama. Kama is the enemy. Craving for sense pleasures is the enemy, which is hard to conquer. Durasadam means hard to conquer. conquer the enemy in the form of desire for sense pleasures by your own purified mind, knowing that the Atman, the self within us, is the highest and the true part of our personality, which is the main part of our personality which we are. Knowing that, using the buddhi as the instrument and mind as the instrument, control the sense organs and reach the goal. That is the message of the third chapter. Now, we don't have much time left. I will start the fourth chapter and then we will continue it next time. Fourth chapter is a continuation of the same topic that was studied in the second and third chapter. Second and third chapter, they contain the essence. You can say they are the most important chapters in the Gita. They contain the very important part of the instructions of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Fourth chapter is an elaboration of the same information contained in chapters 2 and 3. It's called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So I'll chant the first verse, chapter 4. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Yavasvate Yogam Proktavan Ahamavyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshva Kave Bravit. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Yavasvate Yogam Proktavan Ahamavyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshva Kave Bravit. Bhagavan said, the Lord said, Imam Yogam, Avyayam Yogam, this imperishable yoga knowledge means this knowledge will never go out of date, will never expire. Knowledge is always relevant. That is the meaning of Avyayam Yogam. This knowledge which is of eternal validity, this knowledge, Imam Aham Vivasvate Proktavan. Aham is hidden there. Proktavan Aham Avyayam. Aham means I gave this knowledge to Vivasvan. Vivasvan is the sun. Vivasvan means the sun. Vivasvate, to sun, I taught this knowledge. Who says? Sri Krishna says to Arjuna. Vivasvan, sun, Manave Praha, gave this knowledge to Manu. Manu gave this knowledge to Ikshvaku. Manu Ikshvakave Bravit. Ikshvaku was a king of the Surya dynasty, Surya Vamsha. Later on, in Ikshvaku's dynasty, Sri Ramachandra was born. The great Lord Rama belongs to the Surya dynasty, which was started by the sage Ikshvaku. So, this is the unbroken lineage of the teacher-student. Vedanta has been coming to us, the Lord Himself. This Vedantic knowledge originated from the Lord and is coming from the Lord. And in between us and the Lord, there are numerous other teachers. So, the first verse says, this immutable yoga, immutable means which never goes out of date, never becomes obsolete. This knowledge of the self does not become obsolete. Some other branches of knowledge become obsolete. For example, our understanding of the physical universe is not permanent. It keeps changing depending upon new findings. Scientists come up with new findings. One example of why this knowledge is not permanent, it keeps changing, is can be seen in how people believed that the earth was flat. And the earth was the center and sun was moving around that one. That was the belief. That was how the facts at that time available showed that understanding. That was understanding. But then as more research was done, then they discovered the earth is not flat, it is round. And then the earth is moving around the sun. Sun is not moving around the earth. Earth is moving. So that way, there are modifications in our knowledge of the world. The object itself is changing and our knowledge of it is changing constantly. But the knowledge of the self is not like that. It is permanent, of eternal validity, and universal significance. It's true in all parts of the world. Now Vedanta is true. Vedanta is true in all times in the time. It was true in the past. It is true now, and it will be true in the future. So we will continue our study of this fourth chapter. Very interesting chapter next time. Now I shall say the closing prayer. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from diseases, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om, peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, may there be peace everywhere in nature. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well, and God willing we'll see you next week again, and stay well. Thank you very much.